हेलो वेरी गुड मॉर्निंग ऑल ऑफ यू। टुडे आई एम गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट स्ट्रेस। आज मैं स्ट्रेस के बारे में आप लोगों से बात करूंगा। वी विल डिस्कस दिस टॉपिक अंडर वेरियस लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्टिव्स एंड लर्निंग ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ऑफ दिस आर definition and types of stress and stressor. Then we will discuss about basically the individual difference for stress susceptibility. Different individuals have different susceptibility for stress or for handling the different types of stressors. So that we will discuss about why they are different susceptibility for them. Then we will discuss about some neurological aspects of stress. In that, basically, we will discuss about what are the changes in the brain, or basically what are the neurological changes that occurs when a person is faced with a long-term or short-term stress. Then we will discuss about the knowing how to know the stress level in individuals and what are the various aspects that are used for the knowing the stress levels. And then finally about the combating the effects of stress. Suppose anybody want to get treated for that, then what are the various things we will discuss. So first of all, what is stress? Stress is as a definition, we can say stress is basically the feeling of emotional or physical tension. Stress is the feeling of emotional or physical tension, and basically when we say the stress, it can come from any event or thought that makes one feel mentally imbalanced, uh, which reflect in terms of either frustration, sadness, or sometimes anxiousness, or you can say the nervousness. So stress, when we say the mental stress, basically it is in the terms of the frustration, sadness, anxiousness, anger, or nervousness. So the imbalance, our life is all the time basically facing the different types of, and it is just like walking on a road, and so that there is always we have to balance ourselves in this different types of stress events, stressor events. So what are the stressors? Stressors refers to the environmental factors which can cause stress. A very simple term. So what is that stress? So for the individual, different individuals, the stress can be something unique. So sometimes we know that this is the stressor, sometimes we do not know this is the stressors. So these are unique with each individual. It could be external stress or it could be internal stress. Then external, that is environmental factors. Internal, that is sometimes we feel it is this factor can affect ourselves, then we say it is the internal. Then stress offers challenge. Stress offers basically the challenge, distress, and problems. The problems which can be solvable, and sometimes we feel that this is not solvable, then this type of challenge. So stress offers basically challenge. It could elicit disorders or disease in individual. In long term, stress can cause some disorders. So there are very lot spectrum of stress related disorders or stress related diseases, and the whole that is many of the aspects are basically for the treating or the diagnosing the stress related disorders. And this stressors can be real, stressors can be imagined. Examples of many stressors are, it can be hazards or day-to-day aggravations, it can be physical or environmental stress, it can be our life changes, major or minor, sometimes natural disasters, and related to that problems that can also lead to stress. There are many aspects, so we can say stress can occur also with our day-to-day talk or day-to-day common activities. So stress happens. So when we say that stress happens when our internal homeostasis is threatened. So even normal talks can cause stress on the individual. What are the different types of stress? Stress can be eustress or stress can be distress. So sometimes stress comes from good sources. Sometimes it comes from the point of increased physical activity or enthusiasm or creativity. That can also lead to stress. It is related to motivation and inspiration is needed for that. So at that time we have some stress. For example, suppose you can see that suppose I am going for a presentation, then there is with the motivation or the work to enthusiasm, it also can create some sort of stress. Another examples can be winning the lottery, passing an exam, suppose result is out and you get a good marks, then also you have some sort of stress. Distress, that we are more commonly associated with stress. When we say the stress, the people always think about the coming from bad source, or you can say the negative sources, negative stress. It comes when the state of mind or the mind and body undergoes basically when the normal routine is disturbed or normal routine is adjusted or altered for the some type of. Another classification of stress is done by Elliot and Isdorfer. Basically, he defined stress as acute and chronic stress. Acute stress, it is basically related to the time limited stress. When the stress is related to the time, that is clear cut beginning is known, that we know that from this part the stress begin, then we can say that if it is a clear cut beginning and end is known, then you can say it is acute stress. Chronic stress, when there is a long lasting stress but the no clear time clear endings are not known. Chronic day to day activities and that is posing us or threatening our internal environment, then we can say it is the chronic stress. Acute stress are like the traumatic injury, for example physical illness, or sometimes like public speaking, or you can say the mental arithmetic or anything that leads to that starts within minutes and that end is with the end of the illness is over, then the stress is also over. For acute stress, we all know from very school times that we have the fight and flight response, and accordingly our body respond for that. For chronic stress, basically examples are like the caregiving of a family member suffering from Alzheimer's disease or some other neurological disorders. When the end is not known, we do not know when this disease will cover, or when the family members will be free from this type of stress. Sometimes marital discord or poverty, etc. also they can cause stress. Stress in long term can cause some psychological disturbances, like in the form of basically anxiety, depression, or some other form of the spectrum of the different type of. There is another type of stress that is called as episodic acute stress. That is normally it is not stressful, but it is the day-to-day activity when someone gets frequent bout of acute stress. Some persons, normally there is no stress, but they got a frequent episodes of acute stress, that it comes, it goes, again comes. So this is individual differences. That is, some people have more episodic acute stress, some have lesser. So how we take this? So people with this kind of stress will basically take it, or will oftentimes take on more responsibilities and projects than they can handle. Suppose we have one time, our 24 hours is limited. In that we have to do various activities. In that there is so many workload, and we are always also in every work we have the back of mind that there is some another work is being left out, and we are not dealing with the responsibility properly. Suppose family, taking care of family and then things. So also this type of things are basically coming when we take more responsibility or projects. They seem to have constantly in rush. So there is a psychological in terms, there is called as one type of personalities, or a personality we can say. So that is basically they seem like they are constantly in rush, always running late, or disorganized, and this leads to whenever they face the another any simple work, it feels like a more stressful for that type of persons. So this is basically acute episodic stress, and it is basically the individual differences. So stress is till now there are different types of stress. The same type of stressor can have the different type of susceptibility for individuals. So is there any evidences? Do we know how the individuals? If we talk about ourselves, we are sitting here, and if we talk about every individual have the different susceptibility for the same type of work, same type of time is given, but every individual have different susceptibility. So then different aspects of the scientist, or you can say the biologist, started thinking about why there is individual susceptibilities. So there is a good paper in last year is published, a neural model of vulnerability and resilience to stress-related disorder linked to differential susceptibility. So they have started searching, and last 5-6 years we got some good evidences that why the individual have the different susceptibility for this. So the answer lies in the genetics. In some findings have been found that there is one gene basically on the chromosome number 17. There is basically one protein is formed that is called serotonin transporter. Serotonin is called as a happiness molecule. So it started the different types of the molecular basis of that. So it is associated that if there is associated the shorter form of serotonin, the transporter, the person will have the shorter form or the short synthesis of this transporter associated with more vulnerability to the response to stress. And so many papers comes with it. A review paper, very good review, that is the serotonin transporter and early life stress translational perspective. The different portions of the world, the physicians started searching about the different types of, and this paper is from the Netherlands. Another paper, serotonin transporter gene polymorphism and interacts with stress to increase anxiety symptoms in China. So they have seen in adolescents, this study is done in adolescents. Then another from the paper from the USA, the serotonin transporter promoter polymorphism associated with cortisol response to stress. So this is now we can say this is now well proved now that there is some role of genetics. Not a some role, there is a important role of genetics that is in early, also related this particular protein, or you can say this particular genotype has been found in the different types of the disorders also, like susceptibility, bipolar disorders. So the different papers have found it. Is this the only thing? No, there is not the only serotonin transporter that is responsible for all. So the search is going on for the other different proteins. What are the other different genetics? So another protein has been found, that is the monoamine oxidase. Monoamine oxidase, we all have studied in pharmacology that inhibitors of this is used for the treatment of many psychological, or you can say psychiatric disorders. So this is also an allele. It is related to the vulnerability to abuse in childhood and increased risk of becoming an abuser, and so antisocial behavior. So this protein is also having some evidences for this. So MAO inhibitors, abuse exposure, antisocial behavior. This is a long 30-year long longitudinal study published in a very reputed British Journal of Psychiatry. And then impact of behavior evidence of the perception and disposition of the child. So these all papers, that is serotonin transporter and this. Other than that, genetics, there is a role of how we care, how we have been cared in our whole lives. So role of nurture, how we have been developed. So the genetics has a role, environment has also. So which is playing more role, it is still not clearly defined, but reduction has been is influenced by basically the maternal bonding. So the first our stress reliever is the mother. So whenever a child is born, or then starting with the physical proximity, and then how the our family members, or you can say the mother, is handling the different day-to-day stress. That is also the learning for the kids, so that he can handle, or she can handle basically the. So there are the two different models has been two different factors has been for the nurture. And one is the physical proximity, so more feel more secured if you are in your familiar environment or in the family, and also the modeling or the different behaviors model and the stress and handle the different type of stress. For a small kid, everything is seems like stressful, but they can handle by this. So there is also some papers related to that. That is the biological effect of stress and bonding in mother-infant pairs. This nurture, or you can say this nurture, is creating basically a early life hardwiring. Hardwiring is nothing but a permanent change. So if there is two types of wiring in our neurogenesis. When we have the development, or the nervous system develops, that is called as hard wiring and soft wiring. So when we say the hard wiring, so early patterns basically hardwire the stress response. So when in early life, if we settle with how to, the brain will also have the particular, and earlier first 9 months of life is a critical period for the early pattern hardwiring. Early abuse also, in childhood, if we have no good environment, or no good familiar environment, no good maternal support, in that time also it leads to the lifelong emotional reactivity and stress hormone reactivity in these individuals. So for individual differences, we can say there are the role of this. There is also some difference in the gender. For these typical two sentences, that the males more typically mirror the fight and flight response, and females are basically fight, flight and defense response. This basically do not able to differentiate. A good book, that is a Female Brain, is a book published in 2006. In that the brains are female brain, the women and men behave differently because their brains are hardwired differently into their different hormonal relatives. So they are realities. So they are basically giving some clue on the hormonal differences. Another is basically related to the female brains are more for the empathy, and male brain are predominantly more for the understanding and building systems. So more involved for the system involvement, or you can say the enlightening type of skills, and so there is a gender difference, and so these are basically the some aspects about the individual susceptibilities about the stress. Now we will come about some physiology, that is what are the physiological stress response. So when the stress comes to our life, we have the different aspects or the different portions of our body or different body systems that starts with the responding to, and that response is called physiological stress response. It can lead to either the cortex, cerebral cortex, it evaluates the stressor, our brain that evaluates. Also the role of hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, and then the role of the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic divisions of the autonomic nervous system. It starts responding by activating its all the armors, and for that to fight with the stress. So this is basically you can say the summary of the stress response. So whenever stress comes, our nervous system, our endocrine system, that is hypothalamus and pituitary, it comes to either the endocrine, the hormonal system, for the adrenal gland, cortisol is released, it leads to the increased energy and decreased inflammation. Similarly, at the same time, or you can say even faster than this hormonal response, there is the neural response in the form of the sympathetic nervous system activation, and basically via the norepinephrine our various visceral organs, mainly the cardiovascular system, respiratory system, blood circulation, muscle strength, everything start come and to fight with the stress. So this is basically the summary of, you can say, the physiological stress response. So triggering of sympathetic nervous system, we all know what are the different aspects of the triggering of sympathetic nervous system. Simultaneously, the decline of the parasympathetic nervous system, which regulates our automatic bodily functions and finally maintain the homeostasis. So difference between sympathetic and parasympathetic in the different stress, we can just skip from here this part. Another thing that is now come to known as a gas, that is basically the general adaptation syndrome. This is the physiological change the body automatically goes through when it responds to stress. So what are the basic physiological changes other than that is in the terms of the stress response that we call them as a fight-flight response. So it is divided into the three stages. The first stage is basically called as the alarm stage of alarm. Whenever the stressor is or the known or unknown stressor that comes to our life, we have basically alarm stage. Then there is a second stage of the stage of resistance, and finally the exhaustion stage. So first one is the stage of gas, or you can say the generalized adaptation. Alarm stage, when the first stage, when the body prepares for fight and flight response and respond to threat. Then there is another called resistance. So body channelizes basically all our resources so that it can or you can in the form of the hormone or the nutrients, so that it can basically fight with, or you can supply the energy to sustain during stress. But when the stressful condition remains for more prolonged, then our resources will exhaust. So when there is the more prolonged, so similar thing occurs in the acute episodic stress. If you take the regular stress and regularly every day 5 times, 6 times stress is coming, then your resources, your armor will basically reduce. And that reserve is basically a loss of reserve, or that finally will lead to the decreased immunity, and then that's why we say that the stress is associated with so many type of the disorders, and in that the infectious disorders is also coming part whenever we are more stressful. So we should think in this manner. There is metabolic disorders like the exhaustion of the energy sources. There is different metabolic or the hormonal disorders. They also takes place whenever we are having this phase of exhaustion or regular feeling of the exhaustion. So this is the basis of the why stress leads to the either in the resistance phase, or because of this exhaustion our body will try to combat with the feedback system. So it is exhausted, again started with the new hormones, so that will cause somehow to fight with that. So during exhaustion phase, so that hormones whenever or that immune response that can lead to basically some disorder, or you can say the altered our condition. At this juncture, you can say the heavy depletion of the body resources, person can fall ill or die. So this is basically, you can see basically a bell-shaped curve. That is the normal phase 1 resistance to stress is shown here. So phase 1 is the alarm phase, very less resistance, but it is the preparation phase. Then second one is the stage of resistance, and finally when we have lost the capacity to fight with them. So this is the stage of basically exhaustion. Now coming to, I am running a bit faster here to coming to discuss about the stress and brain, or you can say the neurological perspectives of stress and brain. Whenever we have stress, before knowing that which portions of brain are involved for handling or supporting our stressful situation. So first portion, that is most front part of our brain, we know that is the prefrontal cortex. This is the prefrontal cortex. It is basically our analytical brain. You can say it is the CEO of our body. So what CEO? Because it analyzes, it having the creative capacity, logical, imaginative, intuitive, and organizational skills. So these all functions of a head of the institute, or you can say. So similarly, our body has a prefrontal cortex. So whenever we have the stressor, this will come as a leader. It will start thinking about it, how to handle it. But during that, whenever we have the exhaustion phase or whenever we have the chronic repeated stress, then it leads to basically the dendritic shortening of the medial frontal cortex or so prefrontal cortex. So this dendritic frontal cortex, this dendritic shortening is the permanent change. So if the chronic stress will come and permanent changes will start thinking. My aim of this today's talk is basically to understand what portions of the brain that will having the permanent changes if we are suffering from the constant or the continuous stressors. So there is another. So this is the basically diagram showing the frontal executive functioning area. So whenever we face stress, our prefrontal cortex will become disengaged. So and what is engaged? Engaged is the subcortical areas. So areas which are involved in the fight and flight response. So the fight and flight response like the thalamus, hypothalamus, pituitary, brainstem. So these will basically will come. And what will happen? This response leads to, if we lose our analytical skills, what will happen? This leads to the impulsive and even violent behavior. So or it also leads to the increased anxiety, depression, and finally can lead to the substance abuse and learning disorders, increased stress related disorders. So this is basically the overpowering of the subcortical area over the frontal executive area or the. So normally in the normal so we should learn that whenever we talk about the combating stress, then we should learn how to proper use or better use of the prefrontal cortex whenever we find some stressor. So better use of this in it should not, our fight and flight response should not overpower our the CO. So the lower person or subordinates will not having the higher role in this. Another portion of the brain that is having very much role in basically is the amygdala. Amygdala, a part of the limbic system, we know it is basically it affects the brain during both acute and chronic stress. They also affect basically the dendritic growth, but here it is a hypertrophy only in that. And due to the hypertrophy, due to the amygdala over functioning, the person will have the increased anxiety and increased aggression. So this is basically the two different aspects. You can say the three different portions of the brain that are involved. One prefrontal cortex, then fight and flight response, that is the normal, and then there is the increased amygdala. So we just want to see about the neural basis of the emotional appraisal, or you can say the neural basis of handling of stress. Then what is basically this? So whenever we have some experience or some event, that we take it as like a stressful event. So it will basically affect basically amygdala, or amygdala is our effective or relevance that feels the threat. So this is basically the first part, that is a coming part in this. And the prefrontal cortex, it is a more mature part that appraisal of the emotional meaning of the stimulus, and the balance of this prefrontal and the amygdala, that is that normally comes as basically the response for the any experience and event. At the same time, amygdala also affects basically informs the cerebral cortex, hypothalamus, pituitary, and the response is basically in the form of the physiological and the behavioral response. Similarly, at the same time, basically the neostriatum, our thinking portion of the brain, they start having the sequence of thoughts and actions, and they have it guiding automatic behavior for the future. So this is basically a rough, or you can say the summary of the how the new emotional appraisal comes for any. Obviously, different types of the event, different types of experience will have the different combinations of the actions will come out of the different portions of the brain. But this is the overall view of the neural basis of the emotional appraisal. There is another thing that about stress is the hippocampus. That nowadays it is thought or it is learned that our learning and memory is very important aspect for our survival, for our well-being in the normal life. So every day we are learning basically, and the learning and we are basically we are learning new things. So hippocampus is the brain area that is also involved in the stress handling, and how they involve or how they affected during stress. So hippocampus, in hippocampus there is a dentate gyrus. The dentate gyrus is the portion of hippocampus. You can see the hippocampus, the cross area. There is two gyrus, CA1 and CA3 gyrus, and there is dentate gyrus that is inserting in between that. This is the bigger picture of that hippocampus. The dentate gyrus is very malleable. You can say it is very high plasticity. It is having very high synaptic plasticity. It is constantly producing new neurons. So this is the basis of why we learn. Why we learn new things even in this age, because or in adult life, because of the either modification of the surface of the surface of the synaptic plasticity, and also there is the new neurogenesis that is also that comes. So new neurons are also constantly produced. So this is the only area. So during a stressful event, during a stressful episodes, what happens is neurogenesis is suppressed, and also the cell survival in the dentate gyrus is reduced. So this is another much harmful thing that we can think of basically of the stress. The person is having more stressful events, more stress, that can affect the person's ability to learn the things. So ability to learn will also get affected if the person remains stressful for the longer time. So this is the thing we should also take more care. Not only the prefrontal or the emotional violent behaviors, we should also so there is a good paper of Australian that is stress hormone and adult neurogenesis. In this basically the role of dentate gyrus and neurogenesis, and how the hormones basically that the stress leads to the reduction or the production and survival of the new neurons in the hippocampus, and the hormones are having this role. The glucocorticoid along with the other neurochemicals are involved for the basically the impaired stress induced adult neurogenesis. It is very good paper, and in this portion, in this paper I have taken that table form, that how the different stressful experiences like the acute social defeat, chronic social defeat, acute. So this is basically animal model based on the rat and the mouse. In that is the different types of stress are given to the mammals, and in the terms of the cell proliferation, neuronal differentiation, and neuronal survival has been studied, and it has been found that in many types of things there is a role in the cell proliferation and neuronal survival. They get affected. So neuronal survival is affected due to the different type of the stressful event. So we should. And the role of the cortisol and neuropeptides that retract basically the dendritic growth in the hippocampus area. It elevates the long-term potentiation. Long-term potentiation is important for our new learning. That is the long-term potentiation is a property of the synapse. Suppression of the adult neurogenesis leads to increased HPA axis response. So it is related to the HPA axis. So this is about the stress. So this is about the physiological things or the neurological aspects of the stress. So I just want to give a small break here, and so that we can move for the next aspect of this. इसको बंद करिए. अब आप लोग बताइए क्या